In this digital media production, we will be discussing how the mumps, measles, and rubella vaccine works, as well as debunking the misinformation associated with it. Before we can delve into the logistics of the MMR vaccine, it is important to understand what MMR is and why you would want to get vaccinated to prevent it. The first M in MMR stands for measles. Measles is a highly contagious virus that targets the throat and nose and is transmitted via coughing or sneezing. The symptoms of measles include high fever, cough, runny nose, and conjunctivitis. So, what makes this different than the common cold or flu? Measles can be extremely dangerous in young children and can be a catalyst for other serious ailments. By getting the 2-dose vaccine, you are reducing your chance of contracting measles by 97%. The second M in MMR stands for mumps. Mumps is a viral illness that accumulates in the upper respiratory tract and is transmitted most commonly through sneezing and coughing. The symptoms of mumps include swelling, pain, tenderness in the jaw, headache, and a low-grade fever. If that isn't worse enough, mumps can lead to several severe complications such as pancreatitis, meningitis, hearing loss, and more. By receiving both doses of the MMR vaccine, you reduce your risk of contracting it by 88%. Lastly, the R in MMR stands for rubella. Rubella, also referred to as German measles, is a contagious virus and similar to the other viruses we have discussed, is transmitted via sneezing or coughing. Common symptoms of rubella in children are red rash, low-grade fever, swollen lymph nodes, conjunctivitis, cough, and runny nose. However, in most adults, the symptoms are significantly more mild, with even 25 to 50% of adults experiencing no symptoms at all. In the U.S., rubella is extremely rare with less than 10 cases a year. Despite the unlikeliness of contracting the disease, the complications that are associated with it, if infected, are quite severe. Some of the complications include arthritis, liver damage, spleen damage, loss of hearing, sight, and heart problems. If vaccinated, the MMR shot will be 97% effective against rubella. Now that we understand the dangers of contracting measles, mumps, and rubella, we can go into how a vaccine reduces the likeliness of getting infected by the virus. The purpose of a vaccine is twofold. First, it reduces the chance of contracting the illness, and second, it decreases the severity of the symptoms if one gets infected. But how does a vaccine really work? A vaccine builds immunity against an infection by imitating it. Once the vaccine is emitted into the body, a very small dosage of the infection is released. The small dosage is just enough so that the white blood cells attack the vaccine and the T lymphocytes store the genetic information of the virus to its memory so that the white blood cells can detect the virus and eliminate it before it infects the body. Let's take this cartoon reenactment of the MMR vaccine as an example. In box A, the police officer represents the white blood cell and the blue character is the vaccine. The police officer puts his handcuffs, which in this case is the antibody, on the vaccine and stores the memory of the virus. Now that the memory is stored, the police officer can recognize the future viruses and prevent them from entering the immune system. From what we have learned about the MMR vaccine, it seems logical that people would want to be vaccinated to protect themselves. Unfortunately, the MMR vaccine has been subject to scrutiny in past decades that has lingered into today's society. So we ask ourselves, what is the downside? Why would anyone be against a vaccine that fights against 3 potentially dangerous illnesses? Well, one reason why the MMR vaccine and other childhood vaccines have been surrounded by controversy is due to the ingredient thimerosal. Thimerosal is a mercury-based vaccine additive that is added to vaccines in order to prevent the growth of bacteria, fungi, and other germs. Although the CDC, American Medical Association, and the Canadian Medical Association have all announced that thimerosal is safe for use in vaccines and that the body can break down thimerosal very easily, this has not put an end to controversy surrounding the chemical. The claim that vaccines containing thimerosal cause autism rose to prevalence in the past 30 years. Parents and clinicians who have claimed autism to be an immune or gastrointestinal dysfunction were the primary culprits in carrying this narrative. With this, a community of autism researchers emerged with a goal to demonstrate correlation between vaccination during infancy and autism. By 1999, a large group of parents of whose children were autistic started to voice their opinions to the public by speaking to their state representatives. In 1998, the FDA initiated a risk assessment of thimerosal-containing vaccines, and ultimately there was no evidence that thimerosal had caused any true harm. However, the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics agreed that thimerosal-containing vaccines should be removed as soon as possible. This led to the preservative being removed from childhood vaccines in 2001. This was an event that prompted the public's mistrust in vaccines, and misinformation has not stopped since. Another event that fueled the public's distrust of vaccines was a study published in a medical journal called the Lancet. In the study, 13 co-authors claimed that possible environmental triggers, such as childhood vaccines, were associated with the onset of developmental regression. The article was picked up by the media, and many parents searching for a cause for their child's illness blamed their routine vaccinations. This resulted in a drastic drop in vaccination rates in the UK and other areas around the world. Consequently, this contributed to the measles outbreak in 2008 and 2009. The article was finally retracted 12 years later, but despite the retraction, many autism advocacy groups continue to spread the narrative that the MMR vaccine causes autism. The lessons which can be taken away from this series of unfortunate events derived from the MMR vaccine are as follows. First, focus on improving communication of key, correct information with the public. Using language correctly is a powerful tool. This begins with wording. One prime example is that the scientific method does not support proving a negative, such as the popular line, "There is no evidence that the MMR vaccine causes autism." However, it does support claims such as, "There is evidence to support the claim that there is no link between MMR vaccination and autism." But how well will the public accept this way of making claims? The public are more engaged with news that is dramatic and attention-grabbing. One strategy which could convey the public importance of vaccines is to provide information of what is at stake and what could very well happen in the absence of vaccinations. Some of this information includes the fact that increased outbreaks of measles in young children also leads to increased hospitalizations and death rates. Another way to show the reality of outbreaks and infections is through patient and doctor stories which directly showcase the drastic impact these diseases have on young, developing, innocent children. Secondly, work needs to be done on countering the negative information already out and easily accessible on the internet. Despite numerous studies by credible individuals and institutions reaching the conclusion that there is no link between MMR vaccination and autism, many parents are still not reassured due to the prevalence of countering arguments on popular social media sites. Misinformation is one of the most prominent factors to people refusing vaccines. It's important to do research about what the vaccine is, how they work, and symptoms that the vaccines help against. It would be beneficial to monitor public opinion and consider perspectives of frontline health workers over time. Lastly, one of the best ways to improve general public understanding about the MMR vaccine and autism is to encourage people to speak with each other, speak with their doctors, and read as much information, both supporting and countering their stance, as possible. Broadening horizons can help parents and patients alike better understand the current information available on these important issues so they can make the most informed decision.